Day for filing your taxes, you know that. Our next guest says he has come up with a bipartisan solution to simplify your taxes and cut the federal deficit. Republican Senator Gregg of New Hampshire joins the company now to explain it. Senator, always a pleasure to have you with us. I have
Stuart,
to ask,
thanks for having me on.
If I may ask right from the start, it seems to me that it's basically unfair if half of the households in America pay no federal income tax. That's not a fair system, is it?
Well, you know, that's the system we have, and that's what's been evolved over the years, which is that low-income Americans, some moderate-income Americans basically don't pay any income tax. They do pay, however, a very significant tax through the payroll tax relative to Social Security and Medicare. So there is still a lot of taxes being paid by those folks. But the income tax is structured to be progressive in our country, and that's just one of the ways we approach taxation here.
Well, would you spread the net more broadly? I know you've got a proposal for significant tax reform. Would you spread the net more broadly so that more people do pay federal income tax?
Well, essentially what Ron Wyden and I do is propose a tax reform which is significant, comprehensive, it's fair, and it's pro-growth. And it basically follows the template of the Reagan-Bradley tax cuts of 1986, where you essentially simplify the tax laws dramatically, and as a result, you actually reduce the liability of most Americans. People paying $200,000 less will actually will pay less taxes under our bill than they do now. We have three brackets, 35%, 25%, and 15%. So the people in the high brackets, the 35% bracket, will not see their rates go up to what will basically be a 42% rate if present law goes forward. So they save a fair amount of money too. And we accomplish these reductions in basic tax costs to most people by eliminating a lot of deductions and exemptions. At the same time, the most significant thing I think we do, well, it's all pretty significant, but the most significant thing I think we do, we have the second highest corporate tax rate in the world of industrialized countries. We take that tax rate from 35% down to 24%, which means there's going to be a huge incentive for American businesses to grow here in the country rather than going to tax-haven countries like Ireland. And there's going to be an equal incentive for businesses in other countries to come here to America to create jobs because they're going to have a fair tax rate. And they can basically reinvest money rather than spend it on taxes.
Would you agree, Senator, that the political climate is running against your ideas? The idea of capping the top rate for the rich at 35% and the idea of reducing corporate taxes at a time when they're making massive profits, that seems to be against the political tide of the day, isn't it?
I don't think so. I think most Americans realize that our tax laws are just incredibly complex. You know, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year complying, where we've got hundreds of millions of man hours spent complying with our taxes. Most Americans are concerned that, you know, people who have a good accountant can avoid the taxes. So I think Americans want to see a simpler, a fairer tax law, and at the same time one that's more pro-growth. And that's what we put on the table here. And I think it'll get pretty good reception, actually. It has gotten very good reception.
One really fast question, if I may. Do you think we're going to get financial reform this year?
Yes, we're going to get financial reform, whether it's going to be good reform or whether it's going to be reform which fundamentally undermines our financial sector and thus makes it harder for people to get credit in this country and create jobs through getting credit and getting capital is the question. A lot of the ideas that are floating around this Capitol today are really bad ideas. They're very populist and they basically accomplish nothing other than getting a good one-liner on the nightly news show. We need a substantive reform that's actually going to improve our system and make us more competitive in the world in the area of forming capital.
You think that the President and the Democrats will ram this through, whether it's good or bad by anybody's judgment? You think it's going to be rammed through?
Yes, I'm afraid it will be. It's pretty clear that that's the course that's being pursued here. Now, my hope is that at least here in the Senate, we still have time to step back and produce a better bill. And hopefully we can put some pressure on the other side of the aisle to do that, because there are a lot of good ideas, and there's actually no reason for this to be a partisan initiative. We've got a lot of good ideas out there, many of which have already been vetted and which are pretty far down the road, such as how we kill the concept of too big to fail, such as how we address derivatives, such as how we address the reorganization of the regulatory system in this country. I believe we've got definitely not only the the seeds for bipartisan agreement, but actually the plants are pretty well grown, and it's just a question of having the ability to step back and take advantage of what we've already done and get a good package.
Okay, we'll get something, says Senator Judd Gregg. It's always a pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us, sir, again. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stuart.